Episode 220 of the TV Dudes podcast, recorded January 30th, 2019. Beat down, beam down.
Beantown. We're going to cover Cheers, right?
Should I have added that one in?
Yeah, beat down, beam down, Beantown.
Beantown, I'm pretty sure, is a place Guy Fieri went to in season 3 of Triple D. Beantown, right around the corner from Flavortown.
Missed opportunity.
Wait, Beamtown, not Beantown.
Beantown.
Oh, like
Beantown.
Star Trek.
Like
Bean.
Boston.
Like Boston. Beantown.
Do those accents again. Those are great.
Boston.
Boston.
Folks, we are the TV Dudes. I'm Grant.
I'm Randy.
I'm Kyle.
That wasn't even a Boston accent. That was just a weird
That was
voice.
just creepy. I'm Randy.
That's my name from now on.
Oh, dirty Randy. And yeah, we are going to be talking about a couple different shows this week. We're going to be talking about Wayne over on YouTube, Deadly Class on Sci-Fi, and then we're going to check in on Star Trek Discovery because it's back in its second season.
You know what the common thread is of all three of these episodes?
What?
They're all on streaming networks you shouldn't have to pay for. Except for CBS All Access, which is only because Star Trek Discovery is so good. But Wayne's on YouTube, which you should stay in their lane and do advertising like I thought they were going to do.
Stay in your lane. I like that.
Deadly Class is on Sci-Fi, which really no one should have to pay for. That should be free. It should be like CW at best. It should be free with advertising.
Like a PBS thing.
And, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we should. There should be a little government money that goes to make science fiction
Pledge
television.
week for sci-fi.
That isn't sci-fi television. And we'll get to that, by the way, because Sci-Fi is making non-sci-fi TV now. Like, that's what they do. And then Star Trek, CBS All Access. I love Star Trek Discovery. I will pay for Star Trek Discovery, or let the Patreon pay for Star Trek Discovery, however that works. But it should be on Netflix or something. It's crazy that all these things need their own networks.
We're not changing the title.
No, I'm just saying that's the common theme.
I thought it's that they're all in space.
Yeah, Wayne and Deadly Class will both eventually get to space.
Okay, that's what I was hoping.
I assume that the car that he's going to get at the end is a flying car.
It's a spaceship.
Yeah,
Man, I love space travel.
And Deadly Class is on Sci-Fi, so it has to be in space.
Yeah. It's mandatory.
I don't know how they're going to get there. It doesn't seem like they're leading anywhere to space, but I guess it's probably going to happen like the final episode or something.
Man, we could only hope. So, Kyle, you've been away for a while.
Oh my gosh, yeah. In like 6 weeks, did the Christmas marathon.
Yeah, man. I mean, I guess you were able to work remotely and that all worked out?
Yeah, no, I work from home, so it wasn't difficult. And then my wife, she teaches, so it was her maximum amount of time.
I haven't heard you say
school.
wife yet.
I know, I got a wife. Oh, don't tell.
He just showed he has no ring on his finger.
Wait, don't say it. Oh, she doesn't listen.
Yeah, well, I don't think any of our wives listen to their podcast.
It's fine.
Probably the
Nobody,
first time I've forgotten it.
Nobody
hear our
listens.
voices so much. It's amazing that they don't tune us out when we're not on a podcast.
Don't they, though?
That's probably true. It's fair enough.
But no, I have a nephew. My sister-in-law, she had a baby. So we stayed up
nice.
there for a few weeks trying to wait him out. And
And this is up
luckily he
in
came early.
This is up in
Portland, Oregon, yeah.
It's a bad time to be up north.
It is.
Yeah, before that I was in Minnesota.
Oh,
and,
jeez.
gosh, yeah, they're not doing so great.
No, Minnesota's closed. It's just closed.
And by geez, I mean, oh, geez.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, geez, guys. Let's stay home today.
It's like, what is it, negative, like 60 is like where some of those...
So negative 60 is the record, and that's like up in the hill country, but in like the more populated areas, it's at negative 20, I think, right now, which is pretty intense.
You guys ever get the feeling that this planet's just trying to kill us?
Yes, all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
What did we
deserve
ever
it.
do to you, planet?
Yeah, well,
Come on.
I got a list, actually. Well, don't worry. We're all going to escape into space like the cast of Deadly Class at the end of Deadly Class.
No, only the rich are.
I think it's going to be more like Interstellar with organ music.
Oh, man. All right, so... Kyle, you haven't been here. We went through a little bit of a format change, and this goes for you, any listeners that dropped off for a couple weeks. We now just kind of jump right into the TV shows. We'll take a break, and then we'll come back with some news and some listener questions if there's any news.
This is called the all killer, no filler method.
Yeah,
Yes,
we kind of switched it up, streamlined it a little bit. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the shows.
All right, should we start with a spoiler warning?
Yes.
So, spoiler warning for the first episode of Wayne, the first episode of Deadly Class, and the first and second episodes of Star Trek Discovery.
Right. Wayne. Let's start with Wayne.
So, what did you think about this? This is YouTube's next original after Cobra Kai and whatever the jumper thing was that they did.
I thought that this, for what I understand, this is supposed to be some like new origin story of Batman. It's a little bit confusing to me.
Wait, I thought this was that new Mike Myers project.
He's not wealthy. What's going on here?
It is a little weird. It's a strange take.
I really enjoy it. It seems to be along the same lines as what's End of the Fucking World.
Yeah.
Where you have these two poor misfits from fucked up families who kind of find each other and run away from home kind of thing. But Wayne is this quiet introvert, but he's a bit of a brute who has a known reputation for getting in fights and just being...
Yeah, he's a violent dude.
A violent kid.
Yeah.
And the girl is pretty fantastic as the one who has to be much more talkative. The kind of characters that they've filled out with the principal, Mike, I forget that guy's name. Mike O'Malley, I want to say.
Oh, Mike O'Malley. Yeah, he's great in this little bit. Yeah.
And then the dad of the girl.
Dean Winters.
Dean Winters. Love
Mayhem.
seeing him. Mayhem. And from 30 Rock and all that. He's fantastic too. So
Is he related to Alex Winters from Bill and Ted fame?
Oh my god!
I don't believe so.
Okay. They don't look at all like each other, so that would be weird.
So the lead is Mark McKenna, who was an overlord. Weirdly,
oh man, I want to see that.
I haven't seen it either.
People have raved about it.
The female lead, Sierra Bravo, which is an awesome name. She was in Red Band Society. You remember that short-lived TV show where there was all terminally ill kids? You ever watch any of that?
Yeah, I remember that.
She was like one of the female leads in that. And I liked her in that. I hadn't connected that's who she was, but she was good in that. And then the guy running it is Sean Simmons, who has written for Mr. Pickles, Kirby Buckets, School of Rock, Man Up. Some weird credits for being sort of a weird... This does not feel at all like a network kind of show.
But Mr. Pickles... that's the Metalocalypse thing, right?
Oh, is that what that is?
So it feels kind of like that,
okay.
just like gritty, brutal. Like this show, tonally, I saw some places where it veered a little bit too close to being too tongue-in-cheek and not being able to maintain this serious tone. And it kind of dodged it closely. I'm like, okay, good, because... It's tough when I think that you have these competing cartoonish characters that it can just come across as absurd. But I got the heart of it. I felt the situation that this kid's in and why he's lashing out and that he wants to beat up bad people.
Right.
He wants to take out his anger on bad people.
Well, we start off with...
Bruce Wayne.
His dad is dying of cancer. This girl that he meets and has a sort of meet cute, and they become boyfriend girlfriend. And there's this, neither one of them wants to admit that they care about each other. They're both trying to be like these street tough kids, and she's got a fucked up family. Her dad's real violent. Her two brothers are these complete idiots.
They're pretty hilariously idiots.
And there's a thing that sort of puts them on a path. So it's an interesting setup. I feel like it took a long time to get where it was going. Like I liked all the character stuff, but I wasn't engaged by the story until the very end.
It was a bit slow. Like they could have trimmed out a good 5-10 minutes of this and made it the pacing a little bit better for what's going on here.
But once I got to the end, I was like, oh yeah, next episode, and then it's like paywall.
Oh yeah.
Right? I was like, here's the thing.
Womp.
Cobra Kai was worth paying for. I'm glad that we paid for that. Wayne is good, but it's not. I would rather watch it with ads. I'm just. I don't really want to pay for a separate service just to watch Wayne. It's not a killer app.
Right. But if we already had paid for like a year, and I had this there, I'd be happy that I had another show to watch.
Yeah, I think once Cobra Kai season 2 comes out, we'll probably watch this again. We'll probably watch the rest of it.
Yeah, it'd be a good time to check back in on this and do a quick binge there too.
But the first episode is worth a watch. It's free. I would definitely recommend people to check it out.
Yeah, because I think this will be up a lot of other people's alleys.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Gotta have a question because I didn't watch this.
Okay.
But I saw this little trailer. That motorcycle scene where he's flipping the bird behind him. Mm-hmm. How do you think they shot that? You think he was on like a flatbed trailer? You think he was really driving that motorcycle?
I don't know.
You can do it one-handed. I used to ride a hog,
Whoa.
although it was more of a piglet. I used to have a little piglet. I had a little 250.
No, that scene looks gnarly.
Yeah. Let's talk about Deadly Class over on Sci-Fi.
Yeah.
So this is based off of a comic book. Now, there's a couple different comics of like these young prep school kids in like weird, like what was that other one? Morning Glories.
Morning Glories.
Is
Prep
what
school is a thing people like to do.
I thought this was Morning Glories at first, and I was kind
Very
of
different.
confused.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, this is like an 80s, but this is based off of a comic,
It
right?
is based on a comic book by Rick Remender and Wes Craig. And it is it says it's a coming of age story against the backdrop of late 1980s counterculture. So it is like the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a disillusioned teen recruited into this weird high school for assassins. It feels like a Japanese concept, like Battle
Yeah.
Royale and all that kind of stuff, like a school for assassins.
But like I really like the atmosphere they built, this world of the 80s,
Yeah.
and these kids coming from these different backgrounds, and it kind of falls into those cliches that you have these cliques for the different kids in the school, and there's this this veneer is kind of quickly shed on all these kids being tough kids.
Yeah.
Because it ends up that this is a generational school, and these kids have been sent by their parents, who are now like bona fide murderers, assassins, whatever, bad people. And that doesn't necessarily translate to the kids automatically having that in them. So this is something that does seem to have to be learned to some extent by some of them. Some of them do seem to be able to be straight up killers. But our main kid, he seems like the reluctant one who shouldn't be here, and then it turns out he has it in him to kill people.
Yeah.
And other kids don't. And I thought that was a pretty interesting twist to the story.
I thought all the kids were good. Like the lead, his sort of love interest, or two sort of potential love interests.
Little punk rock kids.
The punk rock kids. The dude who plays Willie Lewis, who's like the guy who looks like the gangster guy who can't actually do, like, turns out to be kind of a front.
Right.
Like, I thought he did a really good job. I like the sort of the bully guy that he deals with. Like, I think this was all well cast. Mm-hmm. I think Benedict Wong does a lot of heavy lifting as a sensei guy. He's so good.
He elevates everything to give it
For sure.
a certain degree of class, no pun intended, that
Deadly class.
I'm not sure is necessarily earned by the rest of it, because it also seems like it wants to be just so pulpy.
Yeah.
You know what I thought of when they cast him in this?
What's that?
If you look at the poster of this, it says executive producers, the Russo brothers, and they even say on there, from Avengers Infinity War. And then they got a guy who was in Avengers who's on the poster there.
Uh-huh.
It's like, oh yeah, let's make that show. Sci-Fi Channel, like, why not? It seems kind of like stunt casting, so it's kind of exciting that you're saying he's pulling some of the weight.
Well, it's not just him. There's Henry Rollins in there.
Yeah.
Apparently,
He's guest cast credited, so I don't know how long he's going to be around.
he's a poisons master. He's
Yeah.
basically Snape in this school.
He's going to poison himself or get poisoned, and that'll be it.
You think that's what's
I think
going to
that's probably
happen?
what'll happen, yeah.
I don't know. He popped up in the first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
So I mean,
see.
sometimes people say they're special guests, and then they just stick around for a long time.
I didn't plug into this because the Assassin's School thing just doesn't hold that much interest to me. It's like his concept. And I don't love Rick Remender's writing, to be honest. Like, he does a lot of stuff in comics that I am not a huge fan of. That said, I thought this was really well executed. And it's the slickest, nicest looking thing that Sci-Fi's done in a while.
I was impressed with how it maintained this really dark, heavy tone.
Yeah.
For a concept that is kind of silly.
Oh yeah,
in a
it's
way.
ridiculous. It should be sort of goofy, pulpy, Tarantino over the top kind of thing, and instead it's pretty grounded.
Yeah, they embrace it. They keep it kind of fucked up. And the moment I lost a little bit of my faith in the show was when our main kid, he has that fight with the
bully boy,
the
whoever
bully
he is,
kid
yeah.
from the cartel gang,
Cartel,
whatever.
yeah.
And that kid just completely pusses out. Like, after everyone
Yeah.
else who knows this kid in the school hyped up that he's a murderer,
Yeah.
and like he won't back down from something, and it felt like such a bait and switch for how they want the story to go versus what they should have done with the character. He should have really threatened his life, and it should have been near death before
Master Lin.
Wong, Master Lin pops in and stops the whole thing. And so I was just like, what a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
You guys are doing that thing where you want to introduce someone as bad, but you already want to show that they have another side to them, other dimensions.
Yeah.
Too early, I think, and that's a little frustrating to me.
Yeah, I get that.
Let them live in the bad. Let Sawyer be a scumbag for a while before he's a hero.
How long was that before you brought it back to Lost?
I was itching. I was like, I gotta say something eventually. But the other thing that bugged me was just the comic book references that they make that just seem so unnecessarily heavy-handed.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I like this comic. Do you like this comic? And they get in an argument about why Dark Phoenix. Like, he pulls a gun on him to say that Dark Phoenix is one of the best comics ever. And I was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Fuck off.
That's
show.
That's Remender channeling his love of 80s comics into it. It makes sense. I think this is him doing a little bit of, 87. He was probably a teenager at that point. He remembers feeling love of these comics.
Arguing with himself. Like, it just felt like a fanboy thing
it feels self-indulgent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, so that also just annoyed me. But I want to keep watching it. So we'll see. And then we have Star Trek.
Star Trek Discovery.
We have Star Trek Discovery.
I've heard your thoughts on it because I listened to Star Trek Discovery Pod.
Hey, everyone, you can listen to Star Trek Discovery Pod
on Electric Sweater Network.
Yeah, or just go to StarTrekPod.com and you can, or subscribe on iTunes, man. Yeah. What's wrong with you guys? I think it's pretty fun because speaking of Lost references, man, I went down the rabbit hole with this shit. I couldn't stop pointing out all these things where I'm like, that's a reference to Lost. That's a reference to Lost. Everything's a reference to Lost in this show.
So, Kyle, remind me, did you watch all of season 1 Star Trek Discovery? Were you on board? You were a fan?
Yeah, no, it's good stuff.
And you've seen episode 1 back of this one, but not second episode yet.
Yep, I've seen the previews. I've seen the Spock beard.
So you saw Brother, where he's back, or sort of, but he doesn't ever show up.
We haven't talked about this on this show yet, right?
Right.
Anson Mount.
A first.
As Captain Pike.
He's great.
He's great. He brings a whole different energy to the show.
He's got really good hair.
Yeah, and he's playing off of the expectations already set by Lorca.
Guys, I think we're kind of jumping the gun. Can we go back to actually before this, though?
Yeah?
Because season 2, episode 1, I turned my TV on. All right, and what do I see? Motherfucking Doug Jones first in the credits. Did you guys catch that?
Is he first?
He's topped billed in the credits now. I mean, hell yeah, you should if you freaking are in the best film of the year. But I'm like, long time coming. But no, yeah, because I think it was, who's the actor who played Orca? Malfoy's dad?
Yeah.
Jason Isaacs.
Jason Isaacs.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was top, in the title cards.
I thought
Sonequa Green
was top.
Yeah,
maybe. But no, it's Doug Jones now, I thought. And then Anthony Rapp's number 2.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
And Ensign Mount, of course, is in the credits now. So,
and not to brag, but Anthony Rapp listens to our Star Trek pod.
True.
I'd bring it back for you.
I'll see if we can get him to jump on over to TV Dudes.
Yeah.
He listens. He's like, nah, not for me, not my tempo.
It's funny that he's first in the call sheet though, because Saru.
Saru. I don't know.
Saru.
Yeah.
Saru.
I'm gonna accept either one.
I don't know which one you're supposed to say. I know there was some debate over on that, so and I don't remember what they called it. But Mr. Saru actually feels like he got pushed a little bit to the background, not entirely, but he was going to be the captain. He was going to take over as acting captain, and then Pike shows up. He's like, "Hey, yeah, look, sorry about this, but I'm taking over your ship."
Should he be the captain though?
No, it's
I
a
feel
terrible
like
idea.
I feel like he's only being promoted as a product of being the number 2. He's a great number 2.
Yeah,
but he doesn't have the chutzpah.
He makes a good co-captain, though. It turns out.
Yeah.
One of my favorite moments, episode 1, was with him when they all go on the rescue mission and the things on the back of his neck stands up and somebody's staring at him and he goes, well, what'd you expect?
Yeah.
Like not even addressing it. And I like that they, trust the audience to be smart enough to get that joke.
What's funny is the first episode, it does feel like it feels like the Abrams Trek in a lot of ways. Like it's got that flash. It's really action packed. It moves.
Very cinematic.
I am not a fan of the Abrams Trek, but I think that Discovery melds the Trek stuff and the smarter writing in a way that the Abrams Trek I don't think did. And so I like the flashy production values and the action movie style mapped onto sort of a smarter story. I liked that a lot, quite a bit. Tig Notaro.
Ooh.
We like in Tig Notaro's Jet. What's her name?
Oh, man. Don't quiz me on the names of
I
everyone.
cheered when I saw her on screen.
Reno?
Jet Reno. That's it. Jet Reno.
Well, I love her introduction, too, because we hear her voice a ton, and then it's like, who is that? And you're like trying to place the voice, and then you see her, and you're like, oh, that's who that is.
That was great. I was so happy about that. Granted, you remembered probably that she was going to be on it, right?
Yeah, but I forgot she was going to be there.
I had forgotten until I heard the voice. And then they showed her, and I'm like, oh, right, Tig Notaro, that's awesome. And she turns out to be this, like, engineer who's had to become a medical tech. And
she's Scotty / Bones.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of, was
Merged
in the
into
first Abrams Trek, how they met Scotty.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I like the idea of them picking up crewmen. We didn't.
They'll never learn their lesson.
I think you pointed out on the pod. You're like, well, that worked out great for the security chiefs.
Yeah.
So
Keep doing it. Give it up, guys.
Yeah.
Don't vet your people. Just bring them on and be like, yeah, you're good. You're approved. We found you on some weird red rock.
It's kind of
Whatever.
interesting that they're like, this is the most badass ship in the galaxy. We just can't find people who want to work on here, though. Like, we've got all these openings.
I thought her bit for all was sort of short. Really did a great job introducing her. They haven't shown any more of her yet. I love Tilly. And so I thought all the Tilly stuff in episodes 1 and 2 were great.
Well, they're putting most of the emotional storylines on Tilly and Stamets.
Yeah,
right
the stuff
now.
with her and Stamets where she's like, I don't want you to leave. That was really affecting. Like, it got me.
Do you see the ad for the new Tilly video game that they have?
Yeah, Captain Killy's in the...
Yeah, it's Mirror Trek or like Dark Universe, something like that.
There's some crazy Star Trek, one of these pay-to-play games, and they keep showing it to me every day. I see it on Facebook, and it's like, play that. You can now play as Captain Killy, and I'm like,
yeah,
damn it, don't do that to me. I know this is a terrible game where I have to pay for it, but I really want to play as Captain Killy.
And the trailer, it looks so badass.
So that's I thought her and Stamets stuff was great. I love their sort of succeeding at sciencey things. That feels very Star Trek, and I thought that was really cool.
It seems like the first season, we were immediately presented with a foe and a war that's going on, and that was going to be the driving force of the season. Then we got the big surprise that halfway through they're going to also flip over to the Mirrorverse and have to deal with some whole saga there before escaping and then having to resolve that war.
Yeah.
And so structurally, I was really impressed with how that one laid it out. And here, we already kind of had a little bit of an expectation that they might want to pull back on the tone and not have it be so heavy and bleak like they did in the first season. They might want to have a little bit more of that optimism that it seems like a lot of people are familiar with from the Trekverse.
Right.
And I'm liking this kind of setup that they did, that they have these 7 mysterious red dots that have shown up in the galaxy, and they're kind of pulling the Discovery ship to these different locations for these different kind of Quantum Leap-esque missions where they have to try and figure out and save the day and stop something terrible from happening.
Well, it feels more classic Trek, and especially in the second episode, we see that it feels like a classic Trek episode. It still feels like Discovery because it's got an overarching story, and it's got that sort of darkness. It's got that character-driven thing that Star Trek has had, but this is a different sort of character-driven type, prestige TV type thing.
Right.
But the notion of having 7 things to investigate as opposed to being in the middle of a Klingon war, that feels kind of like what a lot of people wanted from Star Trek. It's Discovery. It is actually going out and discovering things and solving problems.
It's a mystery.
Yeah. Mystery instead of war.
Mystery instead of the struggle.
And I like that. Don't get me wrong, I love season 1. But so far, season 2 has really feels like they have stepped up their game. They figured out how the characters worked. They're able to start expanding a bit more the bridge crew, which I didn't need, but it turns out I really like. I love Kayla. Is it Kayla? Isn't that I love her and her little bits that she gets. Her glee at the notion of doing space donuts,
right.
Was super fun. I like that we see a little more of Joanna in episode 2.
We're suddenly getting the names of all these people.
Are those the 2 Helms women?
Yeah. And then, did you notice when Pike calls out for his roll call, which by the way is a very clever way to get the audience on board with who all these people are?
Right.
He's like, "Don't give me your names. Don't just tell me just give me your names. Don't give me your ranks and all that." The androids still gave her their rank.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because the android just
Android don't know.
Yeah, they can't just shut that down.
Well, that was something that Abrams did with the Trek movies. Is he had all these extras in full makeup on set, and he would just encourage them to improvise.
Yeah.
So he would get like all these like extra people in there, just shouting random stuff.
That android, it's funny. Found out that's like the actress playing that android.
She's an android.
She's an actual Android too. No, no. The funny thing is, she's an iPhone user. Can you believe it?
That's crazy.
No, she's like a supermodel.
What,
But-
really?
Well, I don't know if she's actually legit a supermodel, but she's like gorgeous, and
Oh,
then they like
interesting.
just cover everything.
Oh,
on
that's
them.
really
I was just
interesting.
like, that's funny.
Yeah.
To me.
I think you guys have talked on pod a little bit about, I think that Mike and Clyde maybe aren't as connecting the same way you and I are. They keep saying that they're not feeling this, like the structurally it works, like structurally it's genius, like the story all moves with, but they're not feeling the characters.
Yeah.
I don't feel that. I'm totally connected to these characters.
Yeah, I don't know what exactly those guys are wanting from
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
but for the type of show that I'm expecting Trek to be, and granted, I'm not familiar with other Star Trek shows, so I don't know if there's something else I should be getting from like this rich character development.
Right.
But I think, for a large ensemble cast, they're doing justice to how they focus on doing character growth for some characters while driving the plot along with the other ones, and it's a balancing act, and I'm along for the ride.
Kyle, I can't remember. Trek fan, how much Trek have you seen?
All of Next Generation, all of Voyager.
So you've seen
like 90% of Voyager.
You've seen more than me then, because I watched about half of Next Gen and maybe a couple seasons of Deep Space Nine and about 3 episodes of Voyager.
Yeah,
Like
Voyager
the first
was my
episode of
shit.
Enterprise.
Well, I got into Voyager because it had kind of that Lost in Space concept to
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And then 7 and 9 just looked really hot, so I
Sure.
did a 1-2 skip a few and then watched all of her seasons.
Sure.
But yeah, no, for me when I was younger, I lived in towns where I didn't have a whole lot. So I mean, this was kind of like a big thing on Friday nights when I would get to watch this. But it's interesting because now I watch a lot more Doctor Who, and I kind of see the formula that like I didn't recognize in all like early Next
Right.
Generation.
Yeah.
Where like they're kind of going in circles. One thing I gotta say about this new Trek is it's definitely not that.
No.
They there's not really superfluous episodes, which is kind of something I like about the Orville is it's kind of just that like they do the rounds every episode.
Right.
So I get that like kind of throwback. Oh, I know it's going to all be wrapped up in 30 minutes.
Yeah, I think this is Trek. This is to some extent Trek for people who didn't previously watch Trek. And I've watched a fair amount, but I was never like a huge fan. This is definitely my favorite Trek that they've ever done.
Mine
but-
too. I don't know any better.
But you like it better than the Abrams films? Or are we talking just straight up TV?
Even I don't like the Abrams films. So.
I only liked the first one of those. I didn't like the other two.
No,
anyway.
that's definitely the best one.
Yeah.
Yeah, by far.
But I also think it's interesting that the second episode is a very much a classic Trek episode in a lot of ways. It is a find a planet that needs your help, go down, solve the problem, don't violate the Prime Directive, then violate the Prime Directive, and then go back in.
And that's how those usually go.
That is how that goes. The only reason the Prime Directive exists is for the captains to be like, nah, fuck it.
Yeah. It was fun. I thought
I liked it.
I'm interested to see how they're kind of setting up these pieces, who the Red Angel is.
Yeah,
That character design looks really badass.
it does.
You know, I have a theory on it. I'll also bring it up on next week's Star Trek pod.
Yeah.
My theory, and this is rough, but they bring up the Alice in Wonderland book again in the beginning, in the first episode.
Yep.
And like I felt like, okay, they brought that up in the first season because like through the Looking Glass, they kind of wanted to point out that they're foreshadowing the Mirrorverse that they're going to do in the first season, right? But also there's the adventure of going through the Looking Glass or the Wonderland and them kind of like having the spore drive transport them to another place.
Right.
Whatever. Like the parallels work great always for Wonderland in a lot of storytelling because you're taking your viewer on a trip, a crazy journey.
Yep.
But the fact that it pops up again here, I thought maybe was trying to tell us a little bit something different. And there's a character in Through the Looking Glass called the Red Queen, not to be confused with the Queen of Hearts.
Yeah.
And the Red Queen is the queen from the chess game that's teaching Alice about like the game of chess, and that you want to try and take your pawns and level them up across the field until they can become a queen themselves, and then you have a real challenger. And my idea in that is like if the Red Queen's supposed to be kind of like a parallel to the Red Angel in the show, what if like it seems like a benevolent being that's like trying to help them, but eventually it's going to train Burnham up to the point where she becomes a threat and they have to vie for control, and it's just going to be a little turn of the tables. That's
not the craziest theory I've ever heard from you.
a prediction, a rough idea prediction.
Thinking chess games, who would do that? Q would do that. What if they're going to have like their own version of Q?
See, I don't know what Q is.
Oh wait, so you don't? Okay, so
I don't know anything about Trek.
So I forget. I think it was just Q. I think he might have had a longer name, but yeah, he would
just Q.
Yeah, so Q would pop up, and they would do random one-off episodes where Q would like take Picard into some alternate reality, or would just like fuck his shit up. Like he'd be on the Enterprise, but nobody would know who he is. They just think he's a crazy person, and he's got to.
Is that the thing with the dots, or there's like 3 or 4 dots or some shit?
No, that was a torture thing. But it's interesting.
Yeah.
Q is a godlike alien in the mold of all the Star Trek. All the Star Treks have had godlike aliens. There's a lot of them. There's a comic book that came out this week called the Q Conflict. There's basically Q gathering up the 4 main crews, and he and the other godlike aliens, like one of the ones from like The Cage or one of those other, are like using the crews against each other. And it reminded me that, there's this history of sort of godlike aliens. So the Red Angel fits right in with Star Trek, the notion of this sort of godlike intelligent alien that can't figure out what it wants, whether it's good or bad, what it's trying to do. It's tied into the Spore network somehow, or at least that's their theory, and I think that's interesting.
Right.
Because that's another structural thing that I think that one of the things that Discovery's done really well is they definitely do structure and story structure and season structure so well. Like, you needed a reason. I'm sure when the writers room got together, like, we need a reason why they would still use this experimental, dangerous spore drive if there's not a pressing war to deal with. What if it's the only way to go and save people?
And it keeps that spore drive from Federation trying to replicate and do a lot more discovery of what's going on with it.
Yeah, so Discovery less as a tank like we saw in first season, but more like an ambulance.
Yeah. I think that's a really good analogy.
Eventually, when they have their whole cast set up, they're going to have to blast them off into the future and not be able to go back in time anymore,
or
right?
something. Yeah, I don't know.
Like, because they can't have that technology. It's anachronistic.
Or the Discovery will get destroyed. The mycelium network will have to be sacrificed, or something like that.
But it won't. It won't get destroyed. We already saw that other episode with that dude, like 1,000 years in the future on the same ship, the Short Treks.
That's true. But we don't know that a mycelium network.
Oh no,
The ship could be there, and the network could be destroyed.
Yes.
I want to go back. We haven't talked too much about this. Anson Mount as Captain Pike.
Okay.
He brought a different energy to the show that I didn't know that I needed.
Oh,
the
Black
Black
Bolt guy. I was like,
Hell on Wheels and
yeah.
This is him. He's usually sort of the dour guy, and I think him being like the more
charming,
charming dude. It really works.
Yeah. His first role, he had to be just a gritty old curmudgeonly Western dude. Then the next one, he can't talk.
Yeah.
And so it's finally like, hey, you can talk, you can be laid back, you can be charming, you can have a range of emotions. Go for it.
Yeah. I dug it. I like having him on the show. I think his interaction with Burnham is interesting because it's so different than the way she interacted with Lorca and the way she interacted with Georgiou
and with Saru.
And with Saru. It's like it's all I like seeing different ways that she works.
It's Captain Kirk without having Captain Kirk.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But he's got to be temporary.
I think he might be at least for the season.
Man, that's kind of weird though, right?
It is a little weird.
My question is, do we need classic Enterprise? Do we need Pike character that's already been in the lore? Like,
I don't know that we needed it, but it actually works better than I thought. And the Spock storyline is interesting, even though it's like a different version of Spock.
That's the big one. Do we need? Because I'm like the first season was strong enough without being too heavy on like the Easter eggs and this is where we've been. So it's like,
I think given the ratings they've gotten and how they're able to continue expanding this universe with 2 other franchise shows coming out pretty soon, a Picard one and the one with Georgiou as the spinoffs.
Yeah.
And not franchise, but spinoffs. And then a cartoon series. Yes. They're doing what they should be doing because it seems to be bringing all the people back. Even if people want to complain, they're watching every week because they're waiting for Spock to show up.
Something we speculated on when we were talking about this on my comics podcast was, do you think there was any marketing that came down that said, hey, we need the Classic Enterprise in this or we need Spock? I don't feel like it was. I feel like this was a creative decision all the way.
Well, you also pointed to all that new stuff. That was because they just introduced, they introduced Enterprise at the end of last season.
Yeah.
But they would have had to have put all those spinoffs into play before kind of going ahead with this season. So they don't know how people are going to react to this. But they've got enough faith in this that they're going to ride this pony.
Right. I mean, when Brian Fuller presumably did a lot of the master planning, the blueprint for what the series would be when he started drafting the Bible and the first episode script, the pilot. And if he introduced Burnham, and Burnham is the unheard of sibling of Spock, I feel like at some point they must have anticipated that they needed to address that relationship between her and Spock.
I was asking the same question last year when they mentioned that. I was like, why does she have to be his sister, you know?
I think you want to tie it into Trek because otherwise it's just the Orville. Like you want to have.
What's wrong with that?
The Orville, it's its own thing. I think you want to do a thing where it's tied in a little bit because remember Next Generation back in the day, they had in the very first episode they had really old bones.
Mm-hmm.
Not the concept,
that's right.
But
and he was in like the new uniform with the sash.
And then they did show you that Scotty show up. Mm-hmm. They did have Ambassador Spock. You want to tie in your universe. If you're doing something in a shared universe, you want to tie it in somehow. Deep Space Nine launched by having the Enterprise show up, and Picard and Cisco had a backstory intertwined.
That was very much they were in the same universe. Like there was a few characters that crossed over too.
Well, and Voyager launched off. They had the McKee storyline from the sort of resistance fighters that was included. You always want to you want to tip your hat if you're doing a shared universe.
Yeah, for sure.
So I feel like having Spock and having the Enterprise, as long as they don't do a thing where it's like, oh, the Discovery's so much better than the Enterprise, and it's like it doesn't turn into fanfic wanking, that kind of thing, then I think it works.
My other question, or what I'd like to discuss, classic Trek, seeing the cast from the Enterprise in films. All right, obviously we're not doing that. In fact, these TV shows are arguably more cinematic than those movies were. But do you think that there's something that they could do in movies that they won't because this is just going to be in television? Do you miss when we got to see the actors from the TV show get to be in
We saw
movies?
naked Klingons on this show. I don't know what their limits are on TV because they've cussed before a couple times because they're like, we're on CBS All Access. Fuck.
I think Star Trek belongs on TV. The movies, don't get me wrong, like Wrath of Khan is a masterpiece film. It's a really good movie. And I really like 4, I really like 6. There's stuff I like about all the Star Trek movies. And I like some of the Next Gen movies. I'm not big on the Trek and the Abrams Trek, but I understand what they do. But the movies have to be, by necessity, kind of action-y and very heavily plot-driven. And you can't do a lot of exploration, that kind of thing, which is what Star Trek is really about. So I feel like serialized fiction is really where Star Trek does its best work. In the same way, I'm curious to see how Star Wars works on TV because Star Wars is very much a movie property. And so I think that's a big difference between the two of them. So I'm glad to see Star Trek on TV where I feel like it works better.
Right.
Very curious to see how it all plays out.
Well, yeah. All right. Well, let's put a pin on Star Trek Discovery for now. We'll have to check back in on this later in the season, I'm sure.
For sure.
All right. Let's go ahead and take a break, and we'll be back with some questions. So we're going to get into listener questions here in a second, but first off, I wanted to do a little bit of our housekeeping. And I want to say, if you guys are liking this show and want to help support us, patreon.com/tvdudes is the place to do that. There you can make a per episode pledge. Give us $1 or $2 an episode if you're loving what you're hearing, and we appreciate that. And I did want to say that we got a new patron, and this is a little bit of a mystery. But we got a patron named Not Kyle, who came in and donated at our $20 special tier that we have, just to request that we discuss Grand Tour on an episode. And want us to watch the season and talk about the Grand Tour.
And until tonight, Grant and I both assumed that was actually Kyle.
I thought Kyle was being cheeky and just saying not Kyle, to the point where I texted him. I was like, Kyle, like, we'll just talk about the show. It's cool. You didn't have to do a whole patron thing. And you're like, what are you talking about? Ow!
That would be really funny if I was like, they're not listening to my ideas. I got to start paying.
I was kind of baffled. I was like, damn, he really wants us to talk about that.
So
Sure.
Grand Tour will be on in a couple of weeks. We wanted to give time to... I watched a little bit of it. Grant watched a little bit of it. Kyle, of course, has seen all of it.
Yeah,
but we want to give a little time for us to catch up, but that will be happening.
Yeah, we will do a full episode talking about that. So stay tuned for it, folks. We'll make sure Kyle's here, too, because Kyle will be able to reach across to not Kyle, your Mirrorverse Kyle. And
It's me with just sideburns.
Although it would be hilarious to do the Grand Tour episode without Kyle.
no! Oh, and folks, I want to say that if you are a patron... Guess what we just got? Some fancy stickers.
Ooh.
And I'm hitting up all the people that are already patrons to say, hey, if you guys want a sticker, just shoot me your address and I'll send you one. But if that's a little extra incentive for you guys to sign up on Patreon, sign up and I'll mail you a little TV Dude sticker.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can put it on your car or your Trapper Keeper or something.
Also, there's hours of bonus content.
Oh, yeah. We also do bonus exclusive content just for you patrons. That's also incentive.
You could place it above a urinal, so everybody who visits that urinal, they'd see our little logo right there.
They're like, man, I gotta piss. Who are these TV dudes?
I can't move. I just got to stare at this TV.
I'm enthralled. I'm going to check out and find if this is a podcast. And if it is, they should have put that on the sticker. They didn't. They just put the logo. Weird advertising,
I
bro.
don't know. I see that sticker and I think patreon.com/TV dudes.
Right? Exactly. All right, let's jump over to our questions once a week or once every other week now because a little bit of a format change. Randy puts up a little question post. And we have gotten a couple of questions here. Let's do our first one from Michael Gastini, who says, hey, dudes, I hope you enjoyed Wayne. I sure did have a blast watching it. In honor of this brutal, insanely violent, yet also shockingly heartfelt show, what are your favorite TV beatdowns? I'm not talking about artful, well-choreographed fights like Daredevil. I mean people beating the ever-loving shit out of each other and taking seemingly deadly amounts of pain, yet still keeping fighting beatdowns.
You know, the first thing that comes to mind is Banshee on Cinemax. Have you guys ever watched that?
Man, yeah.
And that Banshee, it's like an Amish crime drama. It said like the guy the criminals are like this Amish mob, and there are brutal fights in that
Right.
show. Yeah.
The first thing I thought of was the brawl on Deadwood.
Yeah,
between
Dan and
Dan and that other dude.
Garrett Dillahunt's character, whoever he was.
No, it wasn't Garrett Dillahunt.
Was it not?
No, it was some other like thug. They have this just fight out in the streets, the muddy streets, and Dan rips the other guy's eyeball out during the fight, and it's relentless. You see like
some crazy fights.
punch for punch, just like them just slowly moving and ribs breaking, and it's just.
You know, as another Tilly the
Gruesome.
Elephant, Raylan Givens got the crap kicked out of him on Justified on the regular basis.
Oh, yeah. I was also reminded of It's Always Sunny when that most recent one where those kids stole their bikes.
Yes.
So Charlie and Mac just started beating the shit out of little kids. And you see the slow-mo of the punch.
Yeah.
And it was just like Luke Cage. You just see the fist crunching the teeth out of this little kid's face. And you're just like, oh, fuck. Loved it. Next question comes to us from Jonathan Huffnagel, who says, Dearest TV dudes, I give you a semi-powerful portal device that will transport you into parallel universes nearly identical to your own. This is his voice.
Okay,
That's not
go with it. Go
Commit
with
to
it.
that
Yeah.
accent, man.
The only difference being that certain TV shows were never
German
cancelled and their stories and their cast continue on. I guess he's German now? I don't know.
Yeah, he's German now. Sure.
Now you can watch Firefly Season 2, Stargate Universe Season 3, and Deadwood and Hannibal Season 4. Which universes would you travel to first? And come on. Come on. I'm looking at Randy right now. What kind of question is that? And what do you think would happen in those extra seasons that never were?
I'm not doing it.
Do you guys remember that show VR5 that came on in
Yeah,
the
I like
early
that
90s?
show.
What if that was just running continuously since the 90s?
I mean,
Like,
as the technology gets crazy,
Yeah, yeah.
more catches up. Yeah,
but
yeah.
it was total like bullshit, like not real technology. So like while technology would progress, it would just keep making up new.
It's still the
more
90s
bullshit.
version of
yeah.
VR. Yeah,
We're still
it's
hacking
that.
it through the telephone.
I would pick terriers probably. I would be the only one who took the portal
Yeah.
to that dimension, so no one else can really
you
follow
close it
me.
behind you?
Yeah, I closed it, and then I kind of destroyed that universe afterwards.
Son of a bitch.
Sorry, you would not believe what happened, but they actually ended up doing 2 spin-off shows: one where he goes to jail, and one where they go on the run.
Oh, so it's like a sliding doors kind of thing.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it ended up making both options terrible.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
because
that's rough.
Donald Logue wasn't actually able to be in either season.
Yeah.
So they just recast him with other redhead dudes.
By the way, Huffnagel picked the wrong week to ask this. If he'd asked this when Les was here, you've been treated about 20 minutes of shows.
Oh, jeez.
You've never heard of.
Yeah.
Can I throw one more in?
Yeah.
If let's say Better Call Saul continues on in like the same realm as like Breaking Bad did, they'll have to go back in time again. So it's like a Mike Ehrmantraut like origin story where it's like young Ehrmantraut. They get the same actor, they just do that like Robert Downey Jr. in Civil War thing where they make him look young. He was a handsome dude when he was younger.
Yeah.
He like rocked the receding hairline for a while. Anyways, yeah.
So I want to address the ones he named. Because Firefly Season 2, the funny thing is, while I'm sad that Firefly was cut short, it also means Firefly never had a bad episode. And I kind of think there's a blessing to that. Like, there's a blessing to Firefly being, 12 or 13, like, good episodes, and then a movie capper. Like, the story is over. It kind of works.
Serenity was an amazing movie afterwards. So.
Yeah. Stargate Universe I fell off of anyway. Deadwood, we were going to get a movie to finish it out. And Hannibal's the big one. I really want to see them do their version of Clarice Starling and all that kind of stuff. I really want to see where they're going to go with all that.
That could have been rad.
So that's the one I want to see. And, they talked about they were either going to get the rights back or they were going to make a character who was like the Clarice Starling character, and they were going to do Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, right.
And that would have been amazing. I would have loved to have seen that.
Rubicon could have been pretty fun.
Yeah.
Lights Out.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's hit up our last question. Marvin A. Lanier says, maybe you have already answered this in the past, but who's your favorite band? They Might Be Giants is mine, says Marvin.
I've got a bit of a divergence here. A little bit of story.
Uh-oh.
The thing that popped up on that Now This, one of those things on Facebook. Mm-hmm. This dude who bought, his girlfriend said her favorite band was the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And he bought her a ticket to the Red Hot Chili Pipers, which is a bagpipe cover band. And they flew to Scotland to see them. And he claims that it was a big mistake. Now, you look at the ticket. It is very clearly the Red Hot Chili Pipers. So I'm led to believe one of two things. Either this dude's a complete idiot and accidentally took his girlfriend to a Red Hot Chili Pipers concert, or he knew he couldn't afford the Chili Peppers, so he bought this and then was like, oh, babe, I don't know what happened, but, bagpipes.
Or both of them are just trying to get a news story, and they thought if we spend money on this, we can get in the news.
Here's the thing. I am not a hater of the Red Hot Chili Peppers like many people are, but I definitely think that a bagpipe cover band of the Red Hot Chili Peppers is something I'd rather see live than the actual Chili Peppers.
What do you think came first, the pun or the bagpipes?
I think the bagpipes came first.
And then they were like, oh, I got a name.
I'm a strict bagpipe constructionist when it comes to
You don't think a
bagpipe
guy was
history.
like, oh, this name, I need to learn to play the bagpipes.
But my point in telling that story is no one's favorite band is Red Hot Chili Peppers. That's crazy.
What's your favorite band?
I don't know. Foo Fighters was high up there for me. I haven't heard all their albums. I don't know if I can claim to be a favorite anymore.
Mine used to.
All their albums are good. Even the ones you haven't heard.
Mine used to be Weezer, like
Yeah.
hardcore back in the day.
Yeah, me too.
I was just noticing, I was like, man, like up until like Green Album or Maladroid, I knew every single song on every, like I could sing every single song that
Yep.
they ever put out, all the B-sides as well, knew all the lyrics. I went to concerts like a couple times. And now I went back and looked and I'm like, they've been putting out like a CD every couple months again.
Yeah.
Like, what are all these other like records they put out?
And
I don't know these.
I have a friend. I have several friends. It is cool to hate on Weezer. Like, people fucking hate them.
Really?
They just released this album of all their covers, like they did Africa and all this other
Yeah,
stuff.
it's pretty boring.
It's pretty boring.
because they just did like straight covers.
But one of my friends posted about that album. The day that I saw it, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I added to my Spotify, so listen to it. And then, like, literally 10 minutes later, I see this post from him where he is acting like it is a war crime they have made this album.
Wait, have you guys seen the SNL skit?
No.
So Matt Damon hosted maybe a month, 2 months ago, and just they had the most random skit ever. It turned out to be really funny. But
Oh, him and Leslie Jones. Yeah,
and they're
yeah.
like arguing over Weezer, and he likes all of it, and she's like, I mean, some of the early stuff was good. But what is your problem, man?
When they get into Pinkerton and all that.
You know, I used to be in a Weezer cover band.
What?
Yeah, we were called Weezer-esque.
I did not know that. That's awesome.
Oh, would you guys have a bagpipist?
We did not have a bagpipist. We did have 3 guitars, though. That was more just out of we couldn't tell the one guy he wasn't going to play guitar
Yeah.
anymore, so we got somebody with a louder amp.
I did see Weezer in concert this year. I went and saw Pixies and Weezer put on a hell of a show.
Wow.
Favorite band for you?
Ooh, it's hard. There's a bunch. But maybe like all time, like At the Drive-In. You guys ever listen to that?
yeah.
I
From
like
El
that.
Paso. They are super good. And they recently got back together, and their like reunion album was pretty good too.
Beastie Boys is high on my list too.
Ooh.
Love Beastie Boys.
Too late. Yours is Michael Bolton. Your favorite band somehow
Michael
is
Bolton?
Michael Bolton,
Yeah.
the individual.
Yeah.
Whatever. Go figure, Randy. You're a weird one.
Honorable mention, Penguin Prison. You guys have heard them?
No, that I've
They're
not
probably
heard.
like one of my favorite bands right now.
Okay. All right.
Not an all time, but like definitely my new favorite.
Yeah, I don't know.
Killers, White Stripes.
Those
No,
are good ones.
No, I like both those guys.
You know what I never realized? You know, Jack White
Yeah.
took Meg White's name. He was
Yes.
really Jack something else.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
think it's
like,
Off was his last name. Off.
No, it was Of All Trades.
Oh, that's
It was Rabbit. It's
a little bit more appropriate.
Rabbit.
it was in Eat the Box. Or sorry, I fucked that joke up.
in the box.
What would
was-
that be
it was-
with one syllable?
It was Elope.
INT.
It was Jackalope.
Interbox.
And then he and Meg White got married and not eloped, and he couldn't be Jackalope anymore. He had to be Jack White.
Boy,
There was a
I don't know how I feel about this whole conversation.
there was an interesting story
You
the other
started
day
it.
about how a lot of people say the White Stripes were super influential, but they don't give Meg White any credit in that.
Oh yeah, everybody's
Because
all about
her-
Jack White and his
Yeah, yeah, but she had half of the responsibility in making that sound.
yeah.
Even though it was like, you know, people don't give it credit because it wasn't super complex. But
Right.
she was there. She did it
And that's why the White Stripes is your favorite band of all time.
of all time.
Yeah, he was in a White Stripes cover band.
How many cover bands?
It was called Whitish.
Well, yeah. White Stripe-esque.
All right, folks, we're going to wrap things up here. We just want to say thank you to all of you guys for tuning in this week, and thank you especially to all of our patrons. Once again, hit me up with your addresses. Not in a weird way. I just want to send you a sticker. Just want to send you a sticker. It's all
Where do you live?
Patreon.com/TV Dudes is where other people can go to sign up and help us out. We appreciate it. And we will be back next week to talk about some comedy shows, in fact. So I know we got Crashing High Maintenance. I think we're going to talk a little bit about Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt and that Good Place finale that happened a couple weeks ago.
yeah.
So tune in for that. And until next week.
TV Dudes out.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast and a member of the Electric Sweater Podcast Network. we are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/tvdudes. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter at TV Dudes. All the music for our show is by our friend and original TV dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith. To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com and electricsweater.com. I'm Grant Davis. Thanks for listening.